You're listening to the Productive Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Kendrick, and I'm on a mission to help online business owners like you focus on the right things and take imperfect action. Every week, you'll get my best tips on everything from time management and content creation to planning effectively and managing mindset issues, all in an effort to help you become more productive. So let's jump into this episode. Hello there. Welcome to another episode of the Productive Entrepreneur Podcast. Today we're diving into a topic that's close to my heart, budgeting. Now don't roll your eyes at me. I know what you're thinking. Budgeting, bleh. But hear me out. You may or may not know that I have a background in finance. I was a banker for many, many years. But when I started my own business, I didn't create a budget. You'd think I would have known better, right? But no. Maybe I was too eager for action, or probably I was rebelling against all those years of corporate budget cuts. I don't know. But a few years ago, I decided to do my first business budget. I probably had 10 spreadsheets open on my screens, receipts everywhere, and endless cups of coffee to keep me going. It was a little overwhelming. But one thing that I realized pretty quickly was that my expenses were way too high when compared to my revenue. And that was a wake-up call for me. No wonder I couldn't seem to get a handle on my credit card balance. And that moment was when I decided that things had to change. And change they did, and for the better, I might add. And that leads us to the heart of what I want you to take away from today's episode. Budgeting isn't just about crunching numbers or cutting costs. It's about understanding your business, setting clear goals, and making informed decisions. It's about taking control of your money instead of letting your money control you. And for those of us who are solo business owners, effective budgeting isn't just important, it's crucial. Why? Because we don't have the luxury of a whole finance department to manage our books. It's just us and our spreadsheets or calculators if that's how you roll. And because every decision we make, every dollar we spend directly impacts our business and personal lives. So today we're going to explore this super important topic of budgeting. We'll dig into the challenges of budgeting as a solo business owner, the benefits of doing it right, and strategies to overcome those challenges. We'll also look at key components of an effective budget, practical tips for maintaining your financial health, and the importance of planning for contingencies. I'll share my experiences, the mistakes I've made, the lessons I've learned, and the practices that have helped me transform my business budget from a source of stress into a tool for success. Whether you're a seasoned solopreneur or just starting your journey, this episode is for you. Because here's the truth. You can do this. You can master your business finances. You can build a budget that supports your goal and drives your growth. So let's get started. And don't worry about writing everything down. You'll find links to everything I talk about in the show notes at tanyakendrick.com/9. You can also grab a free cheat sheet that summarizes the episode and includes the answers to some frequently asked questions. So let's start with budgeting challenges. You know, budgeting can be a bit like assembling a piece of furniture. You know, the ones where the instructions seem to be written by somebody who's never seen a screwdriver before, and you always end up with a few extra pieces left over that you have no idea what to do with. Just like that piece of furniture, budgeting has its own set of challenges, especially for us solopreneurs. First off, let's talk about one of the most common challenges that I see: going in without enough financial expertise or resources. As I said earlier, I have a background in finance, but I know that not everyone has that experience. And the world of accounting, with its specific jargon and complex calculations, can feel like an alien landscape. But even though it may seem intimidating, gaining a basic understanding of financial concepts will really help you manage your business finances effectively. Next up, forecasting income and expenses. This is one that I had trouble with at the start. I came from a company that had been in business over 100 years. There was a lot of historical data to look back on. But when I started my business, I felt like I needed a crystal ball. Predicting future earnings and costs can feel like trying to hit a bullseye blindfolded. But this is something that gets easier with time and experience. And once you have historical numbers, you can get pretty good at it. And let me mention something about forecasting expenses. If you've ever tried setting a personal budget, just know that business budgeting is really a lot easier. Personal budgets typically have a lot of variable expenses like groceries and gas for the car. Your business expenses, especially if you work from home, are likely to be much more stable, and that makes them easier to predict. The third challenge is that balancing act between your personal and business budgets. As solo business owners, our personal and business finances can easily become intertwined. You may dip into your personal savings to cover business expenses, or accidentally use your business credit card to pay for something personal. These practices may be okay once or twice, but if you make them a habit, then you'll end up with problems down the road. And finally, let's talk about cash flow. Unpredictable cash flow is a major hurdle for small businesses. One month you might be swimming in cash, the next you're scraping by. This unpredictability can make it challenging to plan for future expenses, investments, and growth. That's a lot to take in, I know, but acknowledging the challenges sets you up to be able to overcome them. These budgeting hurdles may seem discouraging, but with knowledge, planning, and a bit of perseverance, they're nothing that you can't handle. So we've covered some of the challenges. Now let's talk about the benefits of effective budgeting. Let's start with this simple truth. Budgeting can lead to improved stability and reduced stress. See, a budget is more than just a spreadsheet filled with numbers. It's a roadmap for your money. It tells your money where to go and what to do, instead of you looking at your bank account and wondering where it went. Before I started budgeting, I never knew exactly what my financial statements were going to look like at the end of the month. But once I put a basic budget in place, I began to see patterns. I started to understand my expenses and why I couldn't get that credit card balance down. And I was able to predict my income more accurately. And guess what? That led to a sense of financial stability. It was like a huge weight off my shoulders. No more waking up in the middle of the night wondering if I'd be able to cover my costs or even pay myself. Imagine being in the driver's seat of your business finances. Sounds empowering, right? That's exactly what the budgeting process gives you: control. With a budget, you're no longer at the mercy of unexpected costs or fluctuating cash flow. You know exactly how much you can spend without jeopardizing your business's financial health. You can plan for upcoming expenses, set aside funds for taxes, and even manage your payments more effectively. And let's not forget about decision making. As business owners, we make countless decisions every day, from minor ones like buying office supplies to major ones like equipment purchases or hiring an employee. Each one impacts our bottom line. With effective budgeting, you have a clear picture of your finances. You know your revenue, your expenses, and your cash flow. You can see how different decisions might affect those elements. This clarity allows you to make informed, confident, data-driven financial decisions that align with your business goals. But it's not just about managing your current finances. It's also about planning for the future. With a solid budget, you can plan for growth and investment. When you're stuck in survival mode, it's hard to think about growing. But as you get better at budgeting, it's easier to see opportunities for growth. When you cut down on careless spending, you can free up funds to invest elsewhere. Maybe there's an expensive coaching program or mastermind that you want to join. Maybe there's a conference in another city or country that you want to attend. You can make that happen. That's the magic of budgeting. It's not just about numbers and spreadsheets. It's about gaining control, making informed decisions, planning for growth, and achieving financial stability. It's really about turning your business dreams into reality. Yeah, it takes a little time, effort, and number crunching, but it's worth it when you start reaping those benefits. Okay, it's time to get down to the nitty gritty with key components of an effective budget. The first aspect of a good budget is understanding your revenue. This is the money coming in, aka your sales volume. It might fluctuate from month to month, but with careful tracking and a bit of time, you'll start to see patterns or trends that can help you project future income. Next, we have expenses. These are the costs associated with running your business, and they come in two flavors: fixed and variable. Fixed costs are those that remain constant month after month. For an online business, this could be your monthly subscription for web hosting or the recurring fee for essential software that you use daily, like Canva or ConvertKit. If you have a brick and mortar business, fixed costs would include things like rent and utilities. Variable expenses are costs that fluctuate based on your business activities. Maybe one month you ramp up your Facebook ads, leading to a spike in expenses, or you hire a freelance photographer to do a brand shoot. If you're a maker, you likely buy raw materials, which would be another example of a variable cost. Variable expenses can even include things like office supplies. You'd be surprised how quickly those sticky notes and highlighters add up, says the person who just ordered a set of pastel highlighters that she just had to have. Understanding both your fixed and variable costs gives you a clearer picture of where your money is going each month. This knowledge allows you to plan better, manage your cash flow more effectively, and identify areas where you might trim expenses. And speaking of cash flow, this is another key component of your budget. It's the movement of money in and out of your business. Picture it like a river. Income flows in, expenses flow out, and you need to make sure that the river doesn't run dry. Keeping track of your cash flow helps you anticipate periods when money might be tight and then plan accordingly. Next, let's talk about unexpected costs. They're like those pop quizzes in school. Nobody likes them, but they're bound to happen. A piece of equipment might break down, or you might face a sudden increase in costs, like if one of your software subscriptions changes its pricing. We've seen that happen a lot in the online business world this year. Setting aside money in a contingency fund can help you be prepared for the unexpected. And in the same vein, you also need to plan for other contingencies and emergencies. Life is unpredictable, and so is business. Having a plan in place for unforeseen situations, like a sudden drop in sales or an economic downturn, can help you weather the storm. Moving on to taxes. I know, this is no one's favorite topic, except maybe for CPAs, but bear with me. We have to remember to plan for taxes, period. Setting aside funds for this purpose can save you a lot of stress when tax season rolls around. Next up, business expenses and the role of credit cards in budgeting. So, credit cards can be useful tools for managing your expenses and even earning rewards. But be careful. It's easy to fall into the trap of overspending or accumulating high interest debt. Use credit cards wisely. If you can, pay off your balance monthly. If you can't do that, then make a plan to pay off the balance as quickly as possible. And always keep track of your spending. Last but certainly not least, we need to talk about separating personal and business funds. I can't stress this highly enough. Mixing the two can lead to a financial mess and make it difficult to track your business performance. So get a separate bank account for your business, pay yourself a salary, and keep your personal expenses separate. So there you have it, the key components of an effective budget: revenue, expenses, cash flow, and planning for unexpected costs, taxes, and other contingencies. Now let's move on to practical tips and strategies for overcoming budgeting challenges. First things first, let's talk about education. I'm a firm believer that knowledge is power, especially when it comes to finances. Educating yourself on basic financial concepts is like learning the rules of a game before playing. It gives you a solid foundation to build on. A couple of things I recommend. One, I have a course called Fearless Finances. It's all about understanding your financials and then using that information to set your business up for success. At the time that I'm recording this, it's only available inside my membership, the Organized Business Toolbox. I'll drop a link to the membership in the show notes. I also highly recommend the book Profit First. If you're struggling to pay yourself, or worse, you're adding capital to your business in order to pay expenses, then drop what you're doing and get this book. Read it and put it into practice. I am not exaggerating when I say that this book transformed my business. I'll drop a link to it in the show notes. Next, we have budgeting tools. There are so many resources available at our fingertips to help us manage our finances. There are two that I want to mention today. One is my Ultimate Business Budget Toolkit. It's for solopreneurs who want to stop stressing about money, avoid overspending and falling into debt, and increasing profits. It's a complete spreadsheet system with tutorial videos to help you create and manage your business budget. I'll drop a link in the show notes. Another tool is an app called You Need a Budget. It's mostly marketed for personal budgeting, but you can use it for business budgets as well. It has a bit of a learning curve, but if you want to be able to track your budget on your phone or in a computer app rather than in a spreadsheet, it's worth a look. I'll drop a link to YNAB in the show notes as well. And speaking of tracking, let's talk about spending habits. It's not always fun to scrutinize where every little bit goes. But as a former colleague used to say, if you take care of the nickels, then the dollars take care of themselves. Tracking your spending habits can be really enlightening. You'll figure out areas where you might be overspending or even wasting money. Now on to balancing the budget. Think of your budget like a seesaw. You have your income on one side and your expenses on the other side. The goal is to make sure that your expenses don't outweigh your income. If you find the balance tipping too far toward the expense side, then you'll need to make some adjustments. Next up, setting clear financial goals. This is where your budget really shines as a planning tool. Whether you're aiming to expand your business, saving for a rainy day, or you simply want to cut back on expenses, your budget is the roadmap to achieving these goals. It's like having a GPS for your finances. You just set your destination and follow the route. Lastly, I want to stress the importance of discipline and habit. Tracking income and expenses, establishing realistic financial goals, and staying within your budget all require discipline. But it gets easier as you turn it into a habit. The more you follow your budget and reap the benefits, the more you'll want to stick with it. Okay, let's move on to the final segment of today's episode, and that's how to make sure that your business stays financially healthy. First things first, let's talk about wasteful spending. I've used that term a couple of times today because it's so easy to let money slip through our fingers on things we don't really need. The trick is to make conscious decisions about your spending. So ask yourself, do I really need this? Do I need it right now? And is it worth the price? By being mindful of where every dollar goes, you can avoid unnecessary expenses and manage your finances more effectively. Now let's talk about maintaining healthy cash flow. Cash flow simply means how much cash is coming into a business versus how much cash is going out. That's not necessarily the same as income and expense, but we're not going to get into those details today. The gist here is that you want to make sure that you have more money flowing in than flowing out. If you have more money flowing out, then that's a cash flow issue that needs to be addressed, because eventually you'll run out of money and you won't be able to pay your bills. Now let's talk about planning for upcoming expenses and unexpected costs. We talked about this earlier. Life is unpredictable, and the same is true for finances. That's why you need to have a financial plan in place. By setting aside funds for future expenses and potential unexpected costs, you're ensuring that you're financially prepared for whatever comes your way. Personally, I like to keep 3 months of operating expenses in my bank account. That way, I'm not at the mercy of this month's revenue. It gives me breathing room. Another aspect of maintaining financial health is reviewing your budget regularly. At the end of the day, a budget is simply a plan, and I always say that plans are not set in stone. Your financial situation can change at any time. Business is always evolving, which means that your budget has to evolve too. Income and expenses can change from month to month. Maybe your latest marketing campaign was a huge success, so your sales volume was higher than expected. Or maybe one of your regular expenses increased dramatically. So sit down with your budget at least monthly. I actually prefer weekly or at least every other week just to stay on top of things. Compare your actual income and expenses with your estimates. Don't sweat it if there are discrepancies. There will be. Just make adjustments as needed. So there you have it, some practical tips for maintaining your financial health. Avoid unnecessary spending, maintain positive cash flow, plan for upcoming expenses and unexpected costs, and regularly review your budget. I know that sounds like a lot, so just take it one step at a time. Well, folks, we're at the end of today's episode. We've covered a lot, from understanding the nitty-gritty of budgeting to recognizing the importance of regular reviews and updates. We've talked about business and personal expenses, cash flow, fixed and variable expenses, and more. From the office supplies you purchase to the revenue your business activities generate, every financial decision you make impacts your overall financial health. But remember, budgeting isn't just about balancing numbers. Ultimately, it's about freedom. Freedom to make informed decisions, freedom to grow, and freedom to dream big without the stress of financial uncertainty. And that, my friends, is the real power of effective budgeting. So let me encourage you to take what you've learned today and apply it. Take control of your business finances. Don't be afraid of the numbers. Embrace them. Understand them and use them to guide your business decisions. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope this dip into the world of budgeting has been insightful and empowering. Head on over to tanyakendrick.com/9 to view the show notes. You'll find links to all the resources mentioned, and you can grab the free cheat sheet summarizing everything we talked about today. And if you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much to me if you'd take a moment to leave a rating and review. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe so that you can listen as soon as the next episode is released. Have a great day. And before you go, if you like what you hear on the Productive Entrepreneur podcast, then come check out the Organized Business Toolbox. It's my monthly membership for solo entrepreneurs who want to feel in control and take imperfect action to move their businesses forward. When you join, you'll get instant access to the training and resource vault, and a new toolbox or course drops every month. Plus, we have monthly Voxer office hours where you can privately ask me questions and get my direct feedback. If that sounds like something you need, the link is in the show notes, or visit tanyakendrick.com, and I'll see you on the inside.